On this week's episode of COS Now, before Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, there was Dr. Tom Coburn. A new Epoch Times article highlights how this conservative icon paved the way for today's fight against big government. Plus, another legislative win. Kansas advances our resolution, and Wyoming is now leading the charge to become state number 20 in the COS movement. We'll break down the latest updates from all across the country here on COS Now.
What do we want? When do we want it? Now!
Welcome to another episode of COS Now. I'm your host, Rachel Martin, and on this show we break down all the latest news in the Convention of States movement. You guys know what to do. Make sure that you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you never miss any upcoming content that we have for you guys. With that, let's get into today's news. For our first topic, we wanted to highlight Dr. Tom Coburn, who was a proud supporter of Convention of States action. The late family physician, U.S. Senator, and senior advisor for Convention of States was lauded in a recent piece for the Epoch Times. The article chronicles how Coburn paved the way for DOJ's campaign to audit USAID. Despite battling serious cancer for years, Dr. Coburn traveled the nation to push the COS movement forward until his tragic passing in March 2020.
So you can sit back and not be involved in this process, but when you finish at the end of the day and you finish your term and you're home, and the country is $1 trillion worth off or $6 trillion worse off every year, and you didn't do something about it, it's you that didn't do something about it. It's not Washington. They're never going to do something about it. But our founders intended for you to have the absolute power that can hold them accountable. And it's time. I want to tell you, they need to be held accountable. I've been there. I've seen it. It stinks. It's about them. It's not about us. And it's time to change that. And you are the ones that can change that.
We are very grateful for his time and commitment for this organization, and we would be nowhere without individuals like him. Another win for Convention of States. On Thursday, the Kansas Senate Committee on Federal and State Affairs advanced the COS resolution on a voice vote. Here's Kansas State Senator Bill Clifford on why he voted yes.
I was always opposed in the past to Convention of States, and so I'm a convert to this. And the reason I am is because when I ran for Congress and spent a lot of time in Washington on the political side rather than being there as a physician, I realized that it's broken. They're not going to fix themselves. We citizens have a chance every 2 years to fix it, and we choose not to. Although we're getting closer with the last election. And I want to be revolutionary in my lifetime, just like the founders. And so it's a privilege to support Convention of States.
The resolution now goes to the full Senate for debate. A lot has happened legislatively over the first 8 weeks of this year, so let's do a quick recap. But first, just a reminder about what this is all about. Article 5 of the Constitution says that when 2/3 of the states agree on certain topics for proposing amendments, a convention will be called. Our resolution says that commissioners could propose solutions on 3 topics: fiscal restraints on the federal government, limits on the size of the federal government, and term limits on Congress and federal officials. 19 states have already passed that resolution, so we are over halfway to the constitutional threshold of 34. The 2025 legislative sessions have kicked off to a hot start. This was the first time that Connecticut was considering the COS movement, making it the 50th state to introduce our resolution. So congrats to the Connecticut team on their years of persistence. We have scored committee victories in several states, including committees of the Kansas Senate, the New Hampshire House, a subcommittee of the Iowa Senate, and legislative committees in both the House and Senate in South Dakota. In addition to the hearings held in all those states, there was also a public hearing in Montana where local COS volunteers packed the House to make their voices heard. The COS resolution flew through the Senate with a 23-9 victory and through a House committed with an 8-5 vote. However, the South Dakota House of Representatives rejected the resolution by a vote of 29-38. The COS South Dakota team should be praised for their tireless efforts, and we look forward to them achieving final victory in the next year's session. Despite this setback, Wyoming is in the driver's seat to become state number 20 in our movement. The other chamber victory this year came in the Wyoming Senate with an overwhelming 22-7 victory. We are now awaiting action from the Wyoming House. Hearings are expected this week in Iowa and Idaho, so stay tuned by bookmarking conventionofstates.com/COS Live. Thanks for tuning into this week's recap. Be sure to check us out on other social media platforms, comment your thoughts down below, and I'll see you same time next week on COS Now.